Let's see what happens. Okay, it says we're live. Where's the countdown?
Right.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I should have clicked brand. Okay. And then click this. All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our Footy Fantasy podcast. And this is the Liverpool edition. Of course, we are the famous Reds. We are the Reds, the real Reds. We are the ones who are going to talk about being on fire because we are signing people. So now is the time for us to get on and be excited. And that's why we have a fantastic panel of pundits here today. We have Tim from American Scouser. Hi, Tim.
Hey, how's it going, man? Thanks for having me on.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us today, Tim. And we also have DJ Kabi C, our big man bola in the house. How are you today?
I'm great. Great to be here.
Fantastic. And we have Ryan, our resident Liverpoolian. Yes, that's how we say Liverpoolian.
Oh, yes.
Our resident. Welcome, Ryan.
You know it. Thanks for going on there.
Fantastic. So basically, we're doing our season review, and of course, we'll talk a bit about transfers. We'll talk a bit about the upcoming season. I'm excited. I'm excited because we have a new number 8. We have a new number 8 signed up today. So, but before we talk about all that, let's rewind. Let's go back to season 22, 23. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have a picture of you.
We have to, exactly.
Oh, I know. We have to relieve the trauma. I know, but there were some good moments like we're going to talk about. But I'll have each of you like do a 3 minutes like summary and then give us a grade. I mean, your grade for the season. So I'm going to start with Tim. What's your 3 minute summary for the season and maybe the grade afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, disappointing, right? I mean, you go into the season, especially coming off of a season where you won anything and everything under the sun, to go into that, you kind of have expectations. I think, though, most Liverpool fans were almost on edge waiting for this to happen. We knew this midfield was eventually the wheels were eventually going to fall off. I mean, especially after 2 seasons back to back of playing anything and everything under the sun, like every single possible game kind of a deal. So it's semi-expected, but obviously when we go into the season, we hope for the best. Disappointing, I think, as we enter the World Cup, there was that hope of once we get to the World Cup, people will rest, we'll come back, Jota will be back, Diaz will be back, we'll be partying again. And then it got worse somehow after the World Cup. It was that went upside down. And you make a brief run over there to get your hopes up and for the Champions League. I honestly never got the hopes up that way, but I think at least you saw that there are still a lot of good pieces and it was too early to press the panic button. You get that 7-0 thrown in there, which is, game of a lifetime. So you get to run with that for the season. But yeah, disappointing. But I think, like I say, like end of the season, you had some signs that things could come right back. And this wasn't like one of those cases where the window was closed. And I think now with some additions that are probably coming 2 or 3 transfer periods too late, probably. But nevertheless, not to bitch, they are finally here. And I think, with the revamped midfield, and I think a couple more required moves are on the way, I think we're going to be right back at it.
Fantastic. So what's your grade for this season then? But for last season, sorry.
Man, I'm a generous dude, so I'll give a B- for that late run. And honestly, it's because of expectations. Most fans probably would give their team a B or whatever, but over the last 3-4 years, we've seen what's possible. So then you see what you get, and you're like, ugh. But I'll give a B- just because of that run.
Not bad. Very generous, to be honest.
Yeah, generous, yeah. It's a hard for everybody else to slam on him. So.
And thanks for bringing up the 7-0 because I was going to say this particular podcast is sponsored by 7-Up. All through, we're going to be having sips of 7-Up I'm sorry, I'm going to keep bringing it up. Man United fans, look
Okay.
away. No, sorry, this is sponsored by 7-Up. All right, we go with Ryan. Ryan, what's your 3-minute summary and then a grade afterwards?
Do you know what? I like to, now that the season's over, I like to describe it as it's like your archetypical 90s Liverpool this season we've just had. The level of inconsistency, literally only having the odd result to cling on for, bragging rights. That's literally all we had. It literally reminds me of, the Owen Fowler days, maybe even the early 2000s. I mean, even in the early 2000s, we were winning some trophies. We won a lot of trophies, not the big ones, but they were still trophies. But, it was just so inconsistent. Like there was nothing, it was just so much false hope. Everywhere you turn, you'd get, a really good promising result and then a result that would just absolutely crush you to the point where you didn't know which Liverpool was going to turn up, but you went into each game thinking, yeah, we're probably going to get done here. Like Tim pointed out, you just knew even when we were doing well, you knew at any point the wheels could fall off because it was the same group, and these were players whose contracts are coming to an end. They're getting towards the twilight of their careers. We're still playing with I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Milner in his prime. A few goals at him or whatever, but that is not the kind of player that you need. James Milner's not a Toni Kroos. He's not a Luka Modric, but he's a workhorse. But you can't just be relying on, this guy's a workhorse. You need more than that. You need a player that, you don't want a jack of all trades, because ultimately they're a master of none. You want someone that is just absolutely unreal in one position. We've seen with the likes of Gakpo. I'm happy Gakpo's there, but you don't want a situation where we're signing players and you're just playing them, in whatever position just because. And I feel like in a way that's how some of our signings have played out. When you really break it down, even with this, I made up Soboslai's joined us, but we are so heavy in certain positions. When you really look at it, I'm seeing we'll link with Chiesa. If hypothetically we were to sign someone like Chiesa, we would have about 7 left-sided, left wingers in the team. So, I think we need to get back to the basics. We need to start signing players that are, excellent at specific roles and play them there so that, moving forward, us fans, we don't have excuses. If the team plays bad, we know we play. I don't want to keep looking at, FSG, this and that. And I feel like it was brewing. All of this was brewing. And that's why we ended up with the season we did. But, it's unlike me, but I am feeling pretty optimistic for the new season. I like that the way the start of the transfer window was started, it almost feels like the year where we won the Champions League. We brought in Fabinho quickly. We brought in Virg in the Christmas window before. All the players we wanted, apart from Bellingham, I think he's just too expensive. But the players we really wanted, we've knuckled down and got it sorted, quickly. And hopefully after sorting Soboslai out, we can go and look for, whether it's Thuram, whether it's Lavia that we link with, we just start getting another 2, maybe 3, maybe it's optimistic to look at 3, but hopefully three more players, a defender and 2 more midfielders, and then go from there. But if I'm going to rate the season, I'm not going to be very generous. I'm giving it a solid C.
That's very generous.
Wait, if that's generous,
even C might be considered, so after the years leading up, C might be considered a bit generous, but I don't think they deserve more than a C for this season's performance.
Yeah. And a couple of things I'll first of all say: top-notch pronunciation of the new fella, because I'm just stuck with Dominic. I'm not going near the surname at all.
Apart from the spelling, it's not as hard to pronounce as you think. I went on there's a page that it says this is I think the Anfield rap did this is how you pronounce it, and don't worry about the Z.
Please teach me, please. I need to know. Soboslai.
Soboslai, that's it.
Soboslai. Okay.
Soboslai.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was just going with Dominic. I was like, no way am I going near that surname.
The Liverpool page also did something too when they asked him, "How do you pronounce your name?" And I don't want to butcher it or be disrespectful in any way, but it's almost like the Z's are silent.
Yeah, okay. The Z's don't factor in.
So Soboslai.
Soboslai, lovely.
Yeah.
And also Ryan, you referred to the Jude who can't be named. We can't even sing "Hey Jude" anymore.
Get him. I had to unfollow him on Instagram. I was following him for 2 years. He's gone now. He's gone. Get out of here, man.
Man, that Beatles. He's ruined that Beatles song for me
Good
forever.
riddance, man. Good riddance. He's forgotten.
He's gone off to Madrid. Yeah. Okay, we go to our big DJ, DJ Bola. What's your summary of that season, and like what do you think?
It's a poor season, right? So my expectations are always very high. My expectations are always to be chasing for the league, or at least the Champions League, and we failed at both. But I think it's one of those seasons that we kind of had to have. I'm looking forward to this upcoming season. I'm hoping and I'm praying, and it looks like we're doing so. We're fixing some of the issues that really have been present in our team for several years now. And I kind of feel like we're just we're edging closer to the cliff. And each season was like, I can inch just a little bit closer before I have to do something. And we finally got to the point where I think everyone universally realizes that we need to make a change. So I'm very happy with McAllister. I'm very happy with Sly as well. And hoping maybe we can bring in Thuram and bring in some freshness into the midfield. I'm sure our strike force is going to be highly benefiting from having that level of service. And I also think that our defense won't be caught out so much. One thing I do have to say is I am actually really happy that Klopp started experimenting Trent in that inverted midfield role. That does bring a little wrinkle. It's funny. I've been calling for us to play 3 in the back for a while, and maybe bring Trent into the middle. And I know that's not exactly what we're doing. It seems to be working well.
Yeah,
and
that links to our next topic. Yeah, actually. Yeah. So sorry to butt in there, because I really want us to talk about that Trent thing. So that will be in the next topic, because I just feel it needs a segment by itself. It's such an interesting topic to dissect. So before I just jump into the next topic, I'll do a bit of housekeeping. So welcome to all our viewers, and once again, we're just letting you know you can you can subscribe to our YouTube channel at Footy Fantasy, and Twitter at Footy AD Fantasy, and Instagram at Fantasy Footy. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, and we'd like to hear your feedback. And so let's just jump ahead. Well, I'll give my own summary. Oh, sorry, DJ Kabesi, what was your grade for the season? Sorry for not you.
I want to be harsh, but I'll give us a C. I'll give us a C.
Yeah.
Really, for me, like a passing grade really should be at least top 4, but the last 10 games of the season were pretty cool, and I'll give us a C. I won't be so harsh.
Yeah. To be honest, you guys have really softened my stance, because I was going to go all out and give like an E or a D or whatever. But to be honest, let's. If I want to be balanced, it's true. A C, it's the least we can give, because they pulled it back. it could have been a worse season. Could have finished like Chelsea in 12th position or whatever that was. It could have been that bad. So I think a C is probably reasonable, most reasonable. A B also. I can see why Tim said a B minus, because eventually we put together that good run towards the end. I would have loved us to go further in the cups. I think we went out quite early in both domestic cups, and that was a big disappointment. I would have loved us to go much further in the cups. The Champions League, unfortunately, we got Madrid, and we don't know why. They just have that X over us, and they knocked us out again. So, but the league for me was the big problem, because I felt it's a bit on Klopp. Maybe it could have changed things a bit earlier. Like Bola just mentioned, that change of formation probably should have happened earlier. That change of I know he did try a few things. To be honest, he brought in Bajesic. Stefan. Sorry, he brought in Stefan, and Stefan was good for a while. Stefan was good until he got injured. So he did try to change some things. It wasn't like Klopp was just doing the same thing over and over. But I just felt Trent in the middle just made too much sense eventually. I don't know. It just made too much sense. I know I've been probably against that earlier. I was like, let's leave him at right back. He's so great there. Why do you want to move it to the middle? But immediately he played 1 or 2 games there. I was just like, wow, this just works. This works. And probably there's a journalist, I know Ryan mentioned the Anfield rap. They spoke to Clive, one commentator called Clive. I'm not good with surnames. You know, because so Ryan probably will know him. Clive Tidsdale or something. He's a very good commentator. Yeah. He's a good commentator. And Anfield rap, they actually had an interview with him, and he was adamant that he had been saying for 2 years that Trent should have been. This the way he put it. He said we've wasted 2 years of Trent development by keeping him at right back. That we should just have been playing him in the middle. So that goes into the next segment where we're going to talk about midfield and Trent. So the next segment is more related to that. My grade for the season, like I said, would be C, but I think the season probably would have worked out better if Trent started playing in the middle quicker. I'm happy with the midfield signings, but I still think we need goals from midfield. So hopefully, I think with Trent in there, we get more goals from midfield, more creativity. The problem now is, well, the way we say it is, it's still going to be like, is it going to be a hybrid or is it going to be there permanently? So what do you guys think? Number one, do you think in playing midfield is a good idea? I'll start with DJ Kabesi. Do you think it's a good idea for us to continue playing midfield, or do you think we should just leave him at right back and get proper midfielders in quotes?
I think it's a good idea. Like I think they're calling it the 3-box-3.
Yeah,
it's like a perfect so it's a perfect system for us. The only thing is we may need some more reinforcement in at center back. Like the one thing that I've always, complained about our team. I love it, but it's also a weakness. We expose our back line so much. Like in many cases, like it drives me crazy when people say stuff like Van Dijk is done, because what we actually do is we leave him on an island by himself so many times. And people that don't understand how we play, sometimes it leaves us a little bit exposed on that right side. But by moving Trent into, that bottom part of the box, having like 3 center backs or Robertson as a center back and playing Konate and Van Dijk as a back 3, I just feel that it gives us a little bit more solid. It makes us a little bit more solid in the back. If Robertson bombs up, we're still not all the way exposed. Trent is still in a position where he can cover back, but at least he's not the last man in defense. Yeah. And I think that kind of helps us out a little bit. It brings us a little bit more balance. And with the talent that we're now bringing into midfield, we don't have to rely so much on, providing assists from the wing as much, and we'll have that level of creativity as well as the stability to be effective. So I'm happy. I think that formation actually can be a good thing. Just knowing our manager, though, he's probably not going to do it. He's probably going to start Trent as an inverted right back, and then as the game progresses, bring him more centrally in.
He loves his 4-3-3.
Yeah,
he loves his 4-3-3.
He does love it.
What do you think, Tim? What do you think about this midfield conundrum, the signings we've made, and how does Trent fit into your vision of our midfield?
See, I'm on the other side. I want to keep things as is. I think he should be right back, inverted right back. What we're doing right now with the ball, he's in midfield next to Fab, and he can get, he can be creative where he needs to be there. And then we saw teams adjust that gave Konate the ball and all day to do stuff with it. So I think if we adjust and start creating off of that, I think that's a big plus. I mean, because we necessarily never played really midfield as a midfielder. We did that inverted fullback. So when we had possession, it was next to Fab and he could create out of the midfield. My biggest thing is, Trent's biggest weakness is his defending. And I'm not talking about position, and people are like, oh, he goes up. When he is back already, I'm not talking about getting back, but when he's back already, one give and go and he gets caught ball watching, he loses the runner. That's his weakness. I would be terrified to have a midfielder that loses the runner. Because on any attacking mids, any midfield can jog into our midfield, and there's no way in heck if Trent is not watching them as a right back, he's not going to watch him as a midfielder, and people are just going to waltz into that box open and uncovered because I don't think Trent is going to track back with him. I really liked, what we did with him with the ball, because I mean, yeah, the dude is creative as heck, and I think that's the part of the game that he enjoys. I mean, people were like, "Oh, he seemed disinterested." I mean, we're not here to entertain Trent. He has to do the defensive work, and he has to do his creativity at the same time. He's a young kid; he can still improve on those things, and I think that's like an ideal position for him. Especially when you bring in the midfielders, I think it's kind of helped at the time because we didn't get anything creative out of the midfield. But like what DJ is saying, like Solozabai, and you have McAllister, and there's going to be one, maybe two more signings. So fresh legs, better pressing is going to help. And I do agree with the defensive part of it. I think that's mostly was due to midfield. And I think one thing we did when we pushed Trent up a little bit is we pushed that line back, and that helps Van Dijk. I don't think Van Dijk is done. I think Van Dijk is done being Superman. Like by himself and run and cover.
That's a good way to put it.
He just can't get away with it anymore. He does not have that pace. So he has to kind of adjust his game to it. And I think we have to kind of adjust our game a little bit to it too, knowing he can't just pick up the entire slack and sweep behind everybody else.
Good points. Good points. Well, this is why I like this kind of discussion where everybody's not we don't have all the same viewpoints.
Yeah.
Because that's why I like this kind of. I can see your point, Tim, and I understand what you're saying. But let's see what Ryan says. Ryan, what do you think about our midfield puzzle and Trent's?
I'm with Tim in this for this particular point. In that, I think
2 against 2.
I honestly think Trent moving to midfield. I watched him with England going forward. Superb. He's comfortable. He likes. I feel like he's unburdened, knowing that his main responsibility isn't the defensive side of things, and it's just the picking of passes and almost dictating the tempo. He's almost got like a Thiago role when he played, those two games for England, where he just gets the ball and he just sprays with the quarterback. He's just spraying the passes, and dictating, playing through him. But you did still see moments where, just a little lapse in concentration, little ball through him, he's not really paying attention. He's like, oh shit, I need to, get back. Now with the inverted right back role, what I do like about that one is in the back of his mind, he's still thinking, at some point I'm going to have to run back there. So he's still got some sort of focus on knowing he has to defend. Whereas I feel if you just throw him in midfield, he will completely abandon the defensive side. Not to say he won't pick it up, and he started as a midfielder, and I believe he has all the qualities to be an absolute general in midfield and just add that to his game. He's still very young, but knowing Klopp, you can't tell Klopp anything. Like, I'm sorry, there's nobody on this planet that is telling Klopp anything. So just because everyone thinks, oh, in midfield, no, he will, phase him into midfield a bit. But I think that's my right back. That's the right back that helped me win the league and the Champions League and the FA Cup and the League Cup. And he's right. You can fault him. Nobody on this earth can fault him. What I will say, I pray this season we slowly phase out that super high line. That line is far too high that we play. That defensive line that we play is too high. And like Tim said again, Van Dijk isn't Superman. Before we used to be able to rely on Van Dijk. You can play any ball over the top. Nobody's beating Van Dijk for pace at all. Yeah. This season, we've seen him get beat by, people I can't even pronounce the name. You think Soboslai is a hard name to pronounce. I can't pronounce even the first name, never mind the last name. Yeah. And these men are burning Van Dijk for pace. Yeah. But got a feel for him. That's been his job for so long. He's come back from, probably one of the worst injuries you can have as a professional athlete. You're damaging your ACL. And at the age that he hasn't damaged it when he's 21, he's 28 when he's damaged that ACL. So, he's another one where he's getting to that stage. Obviously, centre-backs have more longevity in them. He's got to that point in his career where he's starting to, more football IQ's coming into it, and he's having to adapt his game based on, his physical attributes. The strength, dominance in the air, that'll still be there, but, the speed, that unfortunately it leaves all of us except for maybe Kyle Walker for some reason. I don't know how.
Yeah.
It's the alcohol. Yeah.
It's like it's getting quicker.
He's getting quicker.
Like the older it gets.
Last season again. But no, not to get too much off topic as I've just done. But yeah, as far as Trent being in midfield permanently, I don't see it happening. Would I like to see it happen? Only if we had another right back in the team, like another solid right. I don't want to see someone that's not really a right back playing there. People last season were saying, "Oh, maybe throw Joe Gomez in there." I'm afraid to say I think Joe Gomez might be past it. Like I keep giving the kid benefit. He'll have maybe one good game, but then other games his head's gone. I can't remember what game it was this past last season where he come
more than one game.
He'd have 1 or 2 fairly decent games, and then he's just getting burnt. Like again, he's the one I feel for because a couple of years ago, if you guys remember, when Virgin Joe Gomez, the year we won the Champions League, up until Gomez getting injured, if you told me who would you have next to Joe Gomez, I would not pick another centre back in the world but Joe. The two of them were, an unstoppable force back. They were unreal, and that chemistry was something else. But unfortunately, it's not the case. So I think we do need another right back. This Calvin Ramsey, I don't think it's worked out as well as we would have hoped, maybe because of injury. Still think he would have been too young anyway, but I think we need another, solid, strong, defensive-minded right back if you're going to be playing Trent in the middle.
One thing that I want to add that I'm sorry, like Ryan was mentioning about the national games, everybody looked at those games and said, "See, look at him in midfield. He's playing against Malta."
Yeah.
And he's playing against North Macedonia. I mean, those guys are back, like hanging on for dear life against England. So it's not like teams that are going to come back at you with quality players like in the Premier League. And I think, you kind of have to bear that in mind. And like Ryan was saying, even in those games, he had those lapses, but it's Malta. In the Premier League, those mistakes are like, not a lot of teams forgive you. They're going to get a goal off of it. There's too much quality on the other side. And that's what I probably would.
The one thing I will say is North Macedonia is actually a really good team. They knocked out Germany last year. Like they're actually, so beating them 4-0 was actually a pretty big deal. Malta, I do agree with you. But the one thing that I did want to impress upon, and I mentioned it before, the reason why I'm not so worried about Trent being in the midfield is, look, I used to play striker. It's okay for you to beat the first midfielder, but there's going to be another weight behind you. When Trent is in the midfield, he's no longer the last man. Like whether, when he's on the right, he's the last man on the right. If you beat him, it's just you, the goalkeeper, maybe another center back can kind of cover him for you. If you beat him in midfield, you have a whole nother line of defense that should be there to take, that pressure. Midfielders are going to get beat, I think sometimes we put too much on our individual players and assuming that they get beat all the time, right?
All the time. Even Rodri. That's what I was going to make that point, Bola. I was going to make that point because I've not really talked about this Trent thing. The first thing, like you said, is Trent is not going. If he's in the middle, Fabinho, for example, Fabinho is next to him. Okay, not the Fabinho we saw last season. Let's say we have the prime Fabinho back. We have the prime Fabinho next to him. Hopefully. So if Trent is getting beaten, we have a prime Fabinho next to him to mop up. If Fabinho gets beaten, we still have the last 3 defenders at the back. So that's there. But my thing is, I think people watch Trent looking for mistakes. I think because the press and the media have spent so much talking about it, we all go into the games looking for when Trent is getting beaten. And like Bola said, all midfielders get beaten at one point. Even all defenders, the best defenders as well. Maldini, when it was the prime Maldini, got roasted once or twice, maybe every few weeks. It happens. It's true that Trent's liabilities lead to goals, but I think that was also due to the structure of our team last season. Like you guys have mentioned, our midfield offered literally no protection many games. Our midfielders, their legs were gone. So the attackers were getting straight into our back line, exposing our defenders. So that was not only on Trent. Trent, yes, he had bad games where he was switching off and maybe he was ball watching. But we had a big issue last season because attackers just get getting into our back line so easily. There were games where they were just literally even in the final game of the season against Southampton, the young lad who scored twice, he literally walked through. I mean, he just ran through the midfield and then scored. There was nobody was tackling him. So that's what I mean. That why it's true. Trent has his shortcomings, but I think the focus is so intense on him that people actually just go into the game looking for, oh, look, he's been beaten again. But other players get beaten too. Rodri, fantastic midfielder, he gets beaten once or twice in the midfield. But I just think it's a good thing to have that option of him in the midfield. Maybe we don't have to do it every game, because there'll be some games where we definitely need him at right back, maybe when you have a speedy left winger trying to come in through that way. But there are some games I think we can just get away with just putting him in midfield. There are games we're going to dominate possession 70% of the time. You can just leave him there. Let him dictate the game. There'll be games, I know people are saying Malta and North Macedonia, but there are some teams that we'll play against who probably are even of worse quality than those teams that are going to dominate possession all through. Leave him in there. Let's make the best of him. I just think we should not discount that possibility. I know Klopp is stubborn, and I think Klopp is, like Ryan said, Klopp probably wants to do this. Klopp will put him at right back and make him. That's Klopp, because everybody else saying it, Klopp will be like, no, I'm not. Especially Gareth Southgate is doing it. Klopp will be like, no, I'm not going to do it. So that's it. But you guys, I throw it back to you. Let's just round up. So what's your final word on that? So are you thinking definitely we don't need any other creative midfielder, and we are fine with the midfield with our new signings, or do you think we need another creative midfielder and a defensive midfielder?
Defensive for sure, I think. Yeah. Creative, I don't necessarily think we need another creative midfield, but one defensively, just in the off chance that Fabinho has another season like he did this season, because too often he was the last line of defense and he got smoked. And, that wasn't happening in the years leading up to last season. It was that injury. I feel like after that injury he got against, was it Villa the season before? The game before the Champions League final, or the last game of the season, whatever it was. After that game, we haven't seen, our Fabinho in the squad, for over a year now, which is a shame, because for the longest time, he was the linchpin in the middle. He held everything together. He was our Casemiro, minus the red cards. Minus the red cards, but we definitely need a destroyer, like a proper destroyer. Henderson, I think this season, well, then again, no one Klopp is too loyal. I would say personally that this is the season you start maybe phasing out Hendo, and he maybe starts the odd game and then maybe comes off the bench in every game, sort of thing, but definitely not first 11 in every game. But
it should be our Milner now. Anderson should be Milner.
Exactly. He should be on Milner now. But again, for some reason, in the last 2 years, Milner's probably played more games than anybody. The guy's a machine. I'll give it to him.
He's been available.
We need a bit more quality.
Always available.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Milner is on number 2 for every position, even goalkeeper, ahead of Adrian, who is Milner. But, hopefully, Klopp, we get these players, Thiago, again, he's like Keita. I love Thiago to bits, but we're not going to see him play more than, about 35% of games this season. It's just a fact, it's something we have to live with. This may be his last season, I don't know. But, definitely someone more defensive minded. I think we've got players in the squad now, Gakpo and Szoboszlai. That's basically like having 2 players that can play in that creative role. But we also have the option of playing them out wide or even up front, depending on what we're going for. More so, I'm hoping to see rotation in formation. I don't want to see that standard 4-3. We can start off a 4-3-3, but I want to see what Klopp is able to do as far as adjusting the formation we have. There'll never be another Bobby. It's impossible. Nobody will ever do Bobby's role as well as that false 9. We don't have a false 9 in the team. These guys, we have 10s. We have 2 players that can play as 10s, or as, with Gakpo, he can play number 9, 11. But I wouldn't call him a false 9 like Bobby was. So it'll be nice to see how he tinkers with it. Who is our new number 9? Is it going to be Jota? Is it going to be Diaz? Not Diaz, Nunez? Because there's a few big name players that are going to be fighting for that same position. You forget, You've got 3 that come to mind: Jota, Nunez, and Diaz straight away. Who's going to start? How do you keep those guys guys happy? What games do you focus on playing them in? Is it just going to be straight rotation? So it's interesting. It's a lot to ponder. Yes.
So, Bola, what do you think? I mean, okay, if we're getting one more midfielder, would you think, based on what you want Trent in the middle, so probably are you thinking of getting a defensive-minded midfielder in now, or you're just fine with the midfield the way we have it?
Absolutely, definitely a defensive-minded midfielder. I'm curious to see what Thuram can do. I think he might be a good acquisition. I like the links. But knowing our dear club, and actually this is actually a positive about our club, we have you have no idea who we're about to sign, right? Like it's always a surprise. It's like, yeah, we're looking at this person, blah, 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 and all of a sudden, bam, over here, this player's coming in. So that's actually one thing that I really do like about our club. So I'm curious and excited to see who we do potentially sign. But yes, I think a defensive midfielder might be a good look. A center back or right back, I'd rate a midfielder higher than a center back or a right back. But if Klopp does go with a center back or a right back, that should then give us some inkling of an idea about what he's thinking. So we're at the sweet spot, right? Where we're actually starting to get the goodies that we want. And we have no idea which way the club is moving, but we seem to be moving in a positive direction, which should be applauded. So I'm just excited. I'm excited. But for me, if it has to be a midfielder, a defensive one.
Yeah. Cool. Tim, what do you reckon? Do you think we are done with the transfers?
Trent back there. So I'm parking Trent back at right back. So I'm thinking, definitely defensive midfielder. I'd be very interested if we do get a player. But like you're saying, you never know. If we've been rumored way too much with Thuram to be signed at this point is my fear. Because normally when we talk about it this long, it never happens. And guys never talk about Solosabai like just pops out, and then within 48 hours he's wearing the jersey, taking photos. So, but definitely a defensive midfielder. I think Lavia is a great candidate because he helps the homegrown numbers too, I believe, which is where we're going to be hurting. I would be a fan of selling. I believe he does. That's what I thought.
He's a Man City
guy. That'd be huge in that sense. I think it brings a lot that, because we're kind of hurting in that sense. I would be a big fan of, because I do agree with Ryan. I don't know how much you're going to get out of Thiago. I would be a big fan of some Saudi money for Thiago. They will watch. They will love him. Like roll his ankles around.
That's a good shout, actually.
Bring the ball down and stuff. I mean, I think he's the guy that, we might be able to get 25, 30 for, and I would bring that, definitely use that for a center back. And one other thing to consider that, even if it's a cheap signing, a young kid or something like that, AFCON, our favorite tournament, is on this year again. So you're going to lose more to that. And I know it looks like, Ryan was saying, like, we have all these options, but, it's Murphy's Law. One injury, and you're selling it down to the same guys playing game after game after game. So I think somebody who can play behind Mo would be, because we really don't have anybody on the right side. You were coming left side. We really don't have anybody on the right side. I know this kid, like Solosabai, can play on the right wing.
Yeah.
At Leipzig, he played there. So he's an option maybe, but that's one thing to consider. I think maybe like a young investment, Taki-like signing. Like if he pans out, he pans out. If he doesn't, we sell him for 3 times the value and make some money out of him.
Yeah, that's true, because with AFCON, Mo is gone maybe for 6 weeks because potentially Egypt could get to the final. And for me, basically, I just think that midfield, I'm reluctant to say maybe they probably left it too late. I mean, too much. They've left too much to do in one window, because now, even if we've got one more defensive midfielder, I would say we still need another midfielder, even if we got that defensive midfielder in. Because we have Anderson who is 32. We have Thiago who is 31, 32. Yeah. And we have Fabinho who is 30. So we have to start thinking of succession planning for those also. Even though we're bringing in, we've brought in 2 new midfielders. Ideally, I would have wanted 4 midfielders, but I think it would just be too much for this window to bring in 4 midfielders. That would be a lot. Yeah. The speculation is Lavia, and like you guys mentioned, it makes sense because of the homegrown quota. But even if we got in Lavia, I would love one more midfielder, because the reason why I say that is we don't know how well Majestic Stefan, sorry,
Stefan.
we don't know how well he's going to recover from that bad injury he's had, because I did have high hopes for him. Although we still need him to fill out physically because he's still very slight and lanky. But that injury seemed like a very bad injury to have. So we don't want to hang our hats on that and say, okay, we have him as an option. Curtis, I loved Curtis, but the injury problems he's had, I know probably he's over it, but there's this news that was given to us last season that he trains for 3 days and then he has to take 1 day off. That's why he was missing games. I'm not sure if you guys heard about this. Yeah, this was theoretically why he was missing so many games. And they're like, oh, he has a specified training regime to get over this injury that he had. So he can't play on the 4th day after training or something, so just something like. So that means it's not somebody you can rely on for fitness either. So that's why I'm just giving my reasons why I think we actually need 2 more midfielders, not just one, because there's still fitness questions around too many of those midfielders that we have. There's fitness questions around them. But yeah, it's all down to the money at the end of the day. So that takes me to our next topic, because it's FSG time. FSG time. Is this model sustainable, or are we in danger of being left behind? I know. For this kind of question, of course, it's easy now to be happy because the money is being spent. But let's look at the overall body of work of FSG over the years. I'll start with Ryan. What's your take on this? Are we in danger of being left behind, or are we still in the shout for trophies with this model?
Absolutely, we're in danger of being left behind. There's no sugarcoating it. 100%. Whilst, don't get me wrong, whilst I respect the model and it has got us where we are, unfortunately, that's just not how football works anymore. You can't be solely profit-oriented, thinking every signing you're going to make is going to pay off just like that, and that the market, the way the market works now is, if you want quality, you're going to have to pay for it. Like the Brighton model of getting these players from, God knows where, under a rock somewhere in the Himalayas or whatever, and you end up selling it for 100 million. That's Brighton have basically done the football equivalent of winning the lottery with like 7 different players, like the same way Southampton did a couple of years ago. But it doesn't always work that way. It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. You can take the risk with some of these players, and hopefully for every 100 million amazing player, you'll get maybe one Andrew Robertson where you're paying 8 million for. That turns out the way he has. That is the equivalent of winning the lottery with someone like Robertson. It's not feasible to hope every player. But this way, if that's how football worked, then the likes of Southampton would be winning the Champions League instead, and Brighton, because they find these small players that, these players nobody's heard of, these tiny fees they pay, and they work their way up. No, when you get to the point where you're challenging for things, unfortunately, you do have to buy the finished article at some point. And if you're buying the finished article, you need to pay big money. There's a reason Real Madrid won, 5 La Ligas or 5 Champions Leagues or however many it was in a row. There's a reason Man City win the league year in, year out, because even though they've got a £600 million midfield or whatever it is, they will still go out and buy a bench player for 70 million. Not saying that that's the levels. You have to go. That's extreme. That's that's that Middle East money. It'd be nice if we all had it, but it doesn't work that way. But if these are what the people that you're chasing are doing, then there is no way counting, pinching pennies is gonna get you there. It doesn't work. If you're looking to beat an Arsenal from during the Wenger era, where they're not spending money and they're just maintaining that Champions League spot every season, by all means. If that's the goal, then by all means stick with the FSG model because it'll work for that. It can work for that. Saying that though, nowadays, when look at how we finished this season, it probably won't even get you that much because the likes you've got new people where money's getting pumped in with Newcastle and that. I mean, you've got a team like Chelsea that's splurging stupid amounts of money and they're finishing mid-table. Now, that's what you don't want. That is a perfect way of how not
How not to do it.
But that's the opposite. That's the opposite end of the coin. You know, you could have too many players on your books for ridiculous wages that you've paid insane amounts for that can't get in the team, and even when they do get in the team, they're not doing anything. So you need to find a balance. So you need the FSG model with the odd, you know, roll of the dice and spending big on the odd player. You identify where a problem is. You find someone that you know, the manager is happy with, but is a big name as well. And, you're probably going to have to spend big for, and you go for them. Van Dijk is the most perfect example of that. Klopp knew that's what I want. We knew you're going to need to spend big to get him in the team. We brought him in the team, and look what happened. Completely transformed one of the worst defenses in the league to one of the best. So, I think you need a balance. FSG's model a bit of gung ho attitude at the same time, and you've got a winning formula.
Tim, what do you have for us? FSG in or FSG out?
I'm definitely FSG in. I mean, I think debating that, I find okay. So here's the thing, right? I mean, being on this side as a Turkish guy in America over here, I know a lot of the hate that FSG gets, and a lot of fans have been silent in the background. Is, let's face it, one, they're American, right? They represent capitalism, right? Which obviously is not huge in Liverpool. But at the same time, yes, they're run more like a company. They do look at the bottom line and everything like that. But I mean, the model definitely works, because you're look at the last 5 years. If you take out the guy, which I know the rules are never enforced, but if you take the cheater out, you're dominating with this model. I mean, you're competing against someone. It's almost like we run the same business. Ryan is, cheating on his taxes. And then, people are coming to me and saying, hey, how come you're not making as much money as Ryan? And I'm like, well, he's cheating, but
Bad Ryan.
But, I mean, that's hopefully Ryan is
right. Use me.
I didn't want to throw you under the bus. If IRS is watching, no, okay, he's good. He's and I think that's it. I think it is definitely sustainable, and it works. I do agree with Ryan in this sense, because I mean, the flip side is, like people who complain about FSG and say FSG out. Who do you want in instead? Because the only people that will just throw money around with no bottom line in mind are people who have way too much of this laying around, probably swimming in oil. And is that what you want? Because the biggest complaint about FSG is the fact that, they don't understand Liverpool, the values and stuff. How are you going to, trot out rainbow laces when your owners are, putting people in jail for being gay or stuff like that? So be careful what you wish for in terms of like the alternate owner. I do agree with Ryan, though, that some things have to be tweaked and done better. But I still think some of this is because of club. This club should sell people a lot earlier and not let everybody play out their contract.
Yes.
Keita should have been gone. I don't care if it was 10 million. He should have been gone. Ox should have been gone. I don't care if it's 10 million. Would have gotten something for him and go get like another young guy. I mean, what is he going to do? Takes Ox's seat in the training room? I mean, he could have just sat on the bench and done as much as Ox did all season. And I love Ox, but we do not cut our losses short. But I think that's on Klopp mainly. Klopp hangs on to people, and he's too loyal to a point where we constantly run out these contracts, and that doesn't, help the bottom line. And another thing I would like them to do is, and it kind of goes with what Ryan was saying, maybe take bigger risks. I mentioned Taki earlier. So sometimes we take these risks with a guy that's 5'10". I would like to see FSG take a higher risk and get a guy like Thuram or somebody like that, who is maybe 25, 30, 35 million. And maybe he will turn out to be that $100 million guy, and maybe he won't. But I think we can afford to take bigger risks than we do. We probably play it a bit too safe. But having said that, I mean, I rather support this model than the other model. I mean, as a fan, this winning means a lot to me than the other kind of winning. So 100%. That's what I'm really after, and that's why I am definitely FSG in. Have they made mistakes? Yes. Can they do things better? Like I say, with some tweaks, I think, when we look at what they've done for the club, first of all, saving the club from bankruptcy in the first place, and you look at the stadium and stuff, but anything positive they do, if you're an FSG hater, it's always like, oh, they're trying to increase the value of the club when they sell it. Okay, and Like, that's good for the club. I mean, so it's still good for the club. Just because it's good for FSG doesn't mean it's not good for the club. So they've done a lot of good stuff for this club. But yes, I would like them to be a bit more high risk taker, and maybe tell the manager sometimes. I don't know, this new sporting director is that kind of dude, but somebody sometimes has to tell club, no man, he's got to go.
Oh, he is. The new
go.
sporting director is that kind of guy. If you,
I hope so, because somebody has to say, man, I know you love him, but these guys are giving 10 for him. Let's just cut our losses short and move on. We just don't.
But the problem with the new fella is on a trial basis. I think he has
only a season, isn't it? Is it only one season?
It's even like maybe 6 months. It's the transfer window. It's a very short contract.
Wow.
But they say if he performs well, then they extend the contract. So he's there on the trial.
Good. So far, so good. I'll give it to him. I'll give it to him. So far, so good.
Sign that man.
But that's one of my issues, because we're talking about the new sporting director, but the old sporting director left a year into his contract. Ward left his contract. He didn't finish his contract. Some of the data guys are leaving. There's something going on behind the scenes. We're losing some of these data guys who helped us build a database, who helped us bring in good signings. Shows that maybe there's no alignment behind the scene. And we saw Mike Gordon, the president, step down for a few months, or step back for a few months, apparently because FSG were looking to sell the club. Now the sale didn't go through. Now he's back in his position as FSG president full time. I mean, there's stuff going on behind that we don't really know about. For me, the issue, number one, is I've seen somebody say FSG are like the Glazers, but they just have better PR. And there's some truth to it. Yeah, there is some truth to it. They have good PR. They have good PR. Now, I'm not saying they're bad owners. They are good owners. But there's some stuff they do that they get away with that some other owners won't get away with. Most recently, they bought Melwood back, our training ground. They sold this training ground for 10 million. And 2 years later, or even maybe less, they're buying it back for 13 million at a loss. But they're not buying it back with their own money. They're buying it back with Liverpool money. And they're trademarking the word Melwood. Is that anywhere in the news? Did any of you did you even know about that? No, because
FSG have Melwood, by the way.
They've bought Melwood back.
No, I mean, can they trademark the name though? Like Melwood?
They are going to, because nobody's talking about it. Check it up. They are going to trademark
the name
Liverpool.
I'm sure
they tried to do that. Yeah. They tried to do it, but the fans
in the early days. That got shut down real quick. I remember that.
Yes, because the fans said no way. And do you know why the fans are distracted this time? Because we're focusing on the new shiny signings we've got, the new transfers. So they buried the news. They buried the news of trademarking Melwood in the transfers that they're buying for us. So nobody
trademark Melwood, by the way. I mean, is that a bad
money? They're adding value to the club, like you said, Tim. They are adding value to the club. So they're trademarking.
If they're adding value to the club, why do we care?
Yeah, but if they're adding value to the club, at the end of the day, some of that value will expect it to trickle down in transfers. So, for example, FFP allows you as owners to put money into the club. You can put money into the club even for development of stadium. They don't. If you develop your stadium, FFP don't even take that into account. Financial fair play doesn't, because you're allowed as owners to put money into the club. But what FSG do, they don't. When they're building the stadium extension, they got a loan, and Liverpool are paying that loan back to them with interest. People are not talking about that. Yes, check it up. We're paying £250 million loan back to them, but with interest. Now, it's not very high interest. It's a low interest loan, but we are paying them money back. Similar to what the Glazers are doing. But nobody talks about that because FSG have good PR. You know?
What's the interest?
Can I interject?
Yeah.
But I'm not going to lie. I'm unapologetically FSG out. FSG are terrible. Okay. And they have fantastic PR. Everything from trying to get Liverpool out of the Premier League into the Super League, trying to increase the price of tickets, trying to do this. You're talking to someone, I play with money all day. I'm into money. I got no problem with people making money. But the problem is FSG aren't using the money that they're making from Liverpool and investing directly into the team. We're third richest club in the world right now. and none of that money is being transferred down to the players until we got to the point.
19th. I'll let you continue. We are 19th on the owner investors list out of all the Premier League clubs.
In the Premier League, not
in
even
the Premier
in the
League,
world.
we're 19th on the list of owner investments.
Exactly. So, like, the whole notion about, oh, who we're going to get instead, like this whole notion of playing other people's fears and trying to attack our culture is so played out. Look at Manchester City. Manchester City celebrates and participates in all the pride events. Manchester City, these folks haven't come in and changed Manchester. In fact, they've built and they've developed within the city of Manchester. So we can't just keep using this notion that we don't know the boogeyman is coming. But what we do know is with FSG, they're not investing in the team. And I'm happy and I'm grateful that we spent, $100 million right now on a couple of players, but that's far beyond the pace of even other clubs that are owned by other Americans. You look at Arsenal right now. They're spending Aston Villa. They're all out competing us right now. And so, and then the other question I wanted to say, the other statement I wanted to say, the question was about the FSG model. What is the FSG model? Because if the FSG model is about, financial sustainability, using the proceeds and the profits that we make from the club, buying new players, well, we're not doing that. We're not even doing that, right? So, I live in the Bay Area, tech country. The Oakland A's, soon to be the Las Vegas A's, are the ones that started this whole, money ball system. It gets to a point where it just collapses unless you continue to invest into the team and into the squad. So that's my only thing. If FSG turn it around and start spending some more money, and again, not to the point where, we're on the verge of bankruptcy or we're on the verge of running at a negative, like that's not wise. But we have so much buffer that people aren't actually looking at, that we can still remain very, very financially solvent, very fiscally healthy, and still compete. Me personally, we don't have to get the big guy all the time. We have the best manager in the world. But we do need to continue to bring in new players on a continual basis. They may not have to be the superstar, but if we have a rotation of new players coming in and a rotation of players going out, hopefully by the time that those younger players get to the point where they're ready to go for Liverpool, they'll be ready, and then the older players can matriculate out. But there needs to be a rotation, and it can't just be, I spent this year because of the profits that I made from selling Takimi Minamino, Origi, Mane, and that gives us our Darwin Nunez, right? It can't just be that. We need to continue bringing in new players, be it younger players, so at least that our main squad doesn't get exhausted. We played every single possible match we could possibly play last season. And this year, and we should have already replaced players last year. This year that just passed, our players are clearly tired. Clearly tired, clearly old. We need new life into our team. So that's my only problem with FSG. If they change that, hey, I'll be FSG in. May even wear a Boston Red Sox hat. But we just they need, if this is the model, they need to. I know, thank you. If they're gonna commit to the model, they need to commit to the model, right? And that includes also bringing in new talent frequently. I do have to run.
Cool.
But I did want to say that before I left. But I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Yes, I don't care what Io says. 7-0 is always going to be iconic in my mind against Manchester United. 7-0. Let's go.
You never want to know, brother.
Bye, friends. Take care.
Take care. Yeah. So I'll give Tim maybe a couple of minutes of rebuttal. So at least just make your final points, because of course you've heard from a couple of us who think, well, we could do better ownership wise. So I'll give him maybe a couple of minutes just to.
Now you're gonna make me talk behind his back because he left.
Don't worry.
Let's talk about what he said. No, okay, I agree with what he said, but I think we're putting some of the blame on FSG. Let's face it, if you're FSG out, FSG can't do no wrong, no right. And if Klopp can do no wrong. Klopp did a press conference and counted midfielders last season when they asked them.
At the beginning of
half of those midfielders were in the freaking training room at the time getting the treatments, but he still counted them. And I think the lack of rotation that he's referencing in terms of new players coming in, otherwise going out, I really think, I'm not saying it's all Klopp, but at the minimum, it's 50-50. It's a lot about, I mean, we talked this last hour, how many times did we mention Klopp's loyalty and Klopp's stubbornness? At least 10, 12 times it came up, right? And I think that's the issue. He's just too loyal to some of these guys.
But you can say he's loyal to FSG too. He's also loyal to FSG.
What was that?
He's also loyal to FSG.
Yes, and that's true. But I mean, I think you kind of have you don't want to have a Conte press conference either in every club.
Yeah.
But you do need that working together thing. But I really feel like some of his loyalty bites us in the butt. It might suit FSG, so maybe they don't say anything. They're like, "Oh, you don't want to spend money? Sounds cool. You want to keep those guys? Okay, that's cool." But so that they don't have to sign new people, maybe. But I think some of the lack of rotation and running people like Fab and Hando and Milner into the ground is mostly on a little bit of club stubbornness and like loyalty. And in terms of like the owner, like, getting a different owner, hey, that's PR. I mean, we're talking about, like if she has better PR than City, what he just mentioned of what City is doing with these pride events, that's PR. Because that's what they're doing to your face. And we know what's happening in the background. To me, that's more PR than what FSG is doing. But like I say, I'm pretty biased in terms of like, how they approach things, because I know people who live out there. I mean, I know like a friend of ours constantly says like, how about a Dubai owner? Like we're trying to find an oil owner that's, oil light maybe kind of thing. No, I mean, it's basically
oil light.
And, and I'm okay with it. If people came out and said, you know what, I want oil money, I don't care. I honestly respect that more. If it is what it is, if that's your preference, that's fine. But I think to criticize FSG on some of the things they're doing and then being okay with oil money, I don't agree with that.
The first thing I'll say is, of course, I think they've done a fantastic job. I won't even say they're bad owners. I adamantly won't say they're bad owners. They've been good owners. I just think we can do better. And when I say we can do better, it doesn't even have to be oil money. Todd Bowley is not an oil baron. Todd Bowley, even though he's stupid.
You don't want to be Chelsea, do you?
No, I don't want to be Chelsea, but I'm just saying there are other people who are rich who are not, their money is not based on selling oil. Like even the guy that wants to take over Manchester United, Jim Ratcliffe, is bidding for Man United. He is not from an oil-rich state. He's British. He's even a Tsar. He's a knighthood of the order. So I mean, there's also a middle ground. Saying that you want somebody with more money doesn't mean they have to be Arab. Nothing wrong with being Arab. In fact, I believe that some of the criticism that has gone their way, I know they have human rights issues, but I don't think a whole country should.
There's a lot of hypocrisy.
Yeah. Hypocrisy. Thank you. I was going to say I don't think.
No, I understand that, but I mean, when it's in your laws, it's different than.
Oh yeah,
how the laws don't get applied properly everywhere, but when it's in your
laws, the thing why I point out the hypocrisy like Ryan is saying is, it's true they have the laws that like puts down women and people of different sexuality, but the problem is England as a country sell weapons to Saudi Arabia, billions of pounds of weapons. England as a country
over here in the US for that.
They take money. They take money from Saudi Arabia, and all of a sudden the people who live in England are like, oh, this Saudi people are crazy, but your government is making deals with them. They're using some of that money to develop your own country. Nobody's talking about that. Yeah. But you're talking about, these guys, their money is like so dirty, but you're taking some of that money in your own country too. So that's my problem with it, the hypocrisy. I'm not saying two wrongs make it right. Two wrongs don't make it right. But it's just that let's point out the other side of the argument. So, but leaving all that so we don't get sidetracked. If FSG do sell, ideally, I want them to sell to somebody who are like FSG, but with more flexibility, really, like just with the money, like a bit more flexibility, because the rules do allow owner investment. That's the thing. They're not breaking any rules by putting in some of their own money, but they don't want to put in any of their own money. And I understand, like, okay, it's their prerogative not to put in their own money because they don't have to. But if we got owners who are a bit more flexible with putting in some of owner investment to help with the playing squad, I think we'll be in a better position. But I do agree with you guys. Let us not let Klopp off the hook because Klopp himself has a part to play with this. So Ryan, maybe you just want to have a couple of minutes to round up before we go up to the next section.
If I could add, I was just thinking, it's like you said, you want to find a happy medium between
exactly
both of the things that we've just discussed. Like, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, so can't say too much about the Middle East, but then at the same time, FSG, they do need to book up their ideas. What I will say is, and what I will add, because Klopp, I know we sometimes, you do have to throw criticism around, but what I'll give Klopp is, there's not a manager that's on the planet, maybe even past or present, that I feel wins the league with FSG's model to date. With what the model FSG brought to Liverpool, which has won us the league and the Champions League, you couldn't mention a manager to me that's around today. Not Pep. Don't say Pep, because Pep has never worked. Pep has never worked under those kind of conditions. You could probably win maybe the Europa League with that model, but you couldn't tell me there's a manager about that could compete with Man City the way we have.
Yeah,
won the league even once, and then won the Champions League, and then got to two Champions League finals. Whether you win or lose doesn't matter. There's not a manager about that does as much with what he's been given, and is expected to carry on. Again, it's not sustainable. So the fact that he's done what he's done at all is a miracle. It's not in shy of a miracle. FSG, I've gotten us there, thank God, but that model doesn't work without Klopp. So as much as I won't bash them, I won't overcredit them either with what they've done for us. I think
you've got to credit them for finding Klopp, don't you?
Well, that's it. They're great. That is the greatest thing that they ever did, was bring that man in, because if it was anyone else in, I don't care who it was, they're not accomplishing what Jurgen Klopp has accomplished. Because I say it again, Pep Guardiola, and I'll take nothing away from Pep because he's probably one of the greatest managers that will ever, manage in football. He has never undertaken a challenge like he has, like Klopp has undertaken. That Man City team wasn't the finished article when he got there, but they had won the Premier League. Don't forget that. I don't care if the team didn't look the same. They had already won the Premier League
a couple of times, I think, even before he got there. Yeah.
It was how many times did they win? Who else won it? Mancini
and Pellegrini. Pellegrini won.
Pellegrini, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So they won it a couple of times. There you go. But don't get me wrong, what he's done is phenomenal. But when you've got FIFA, let me have a rich investment at the very start before this career mode starts. That type of money, and you can, if they want to buy, this way they can go and buy Mbappe tomorrow. Imagine that. Imagine if Liverpool could even be in the discussion for Mbappe, and it's not a joke. Man City can go and buy the guy tomorrow if they wanted to. Imagine that. Like, just think about that for a second. Like,
and they're paying 400K.
Games in like the sandbox mode, where there's infinite money.
That's the whole point. We're a massive, massive team, but those type of players, we can't even. We're not invited to the table to have that.
We couldn't even get Bellingham.
Exactly. We wouldn't be invited to we're not invited to the barbecue to have that kind of discussion. We're not invited.
But let me ask you this, though, because I think it's just totally different skill sets. I think, Klopp can get more out of nothing, and that's probably why SSG went and got him, because it kind of fits this model in the first place. Hey, we're not going to give you a whole lot, but we know we can improve you. But I almost feel like if you flip-flopped, I don't know if Klopp would be do as well in terms of managing that deep of a quality squad and giving them minutes.
Potentially, right? Because Pep, what I'll give Pep is he is that good a manager. He knows who he wants. It just so happens that who he wants is always very expensive. It's just, these players just happen to be very expensive. He's not finding.
And if he makes a mistake, Ryan, he can solve it.
Exactly.
Do you know how many 50 million fullbacks?
45 million pounds on what, Mangala? Remember him?
Yeah.
No, you don't. You probably don't, because he's gone. He's forgotten. He's spent 50 million on Calvin Phillips. The guy doesn't play, so he's able to make these big mistakes. But fortunately for him, a lot of his decisions do pan out. But he can afford to make very expensive mistakes.
Yeah.
Ironically, though, that Akanji is probably one of the greatest defenders I've ever seen, and that was one of the cheaper ones that he bought. He's probably
Yeah.
their best, in my eyes. He's probably Man City's best defender because he can play anywhere across the back line very comfortably, and he does it so well. Nathan Ake, he was on Bournemouth's books. He was at Chelsea. I never really thought he was that good. He's a very good defender. A very, very good defender. So he can, spot the odd expensive diamond in the rough, because these players that I'm mentioning, they weren't cheap either. These are McAllister fees that we're paying. We're screaming about McAllister. These players that are surprised, diamonds in the rough are still costing, an awful lot of money. Those are our big money.
Some people will be accusing us of being bitter, and why are we ranting about Man City?
So call me bitter. I don't give a toss. You can call me bitter. The facts are the facts. The facts are the facts, though. It's not a lie.
I had a long argument with somebody yesterday, on WhatsApp about this Man City thing, and I don't want to rehash it because I was just like, this guy. Yeah, basically, this guy was just defending them. I was like, why are you defending these guys? These guys are cheats, basically. They cheated away.
I'm not even getting onto the topic of cheating and FFP and all that. I'm just stating the facts. We can't spend money like they can, and they can afford to make expensive mistakes, whereas we can't.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know why. If Nunes is a flop, that's a big problem. That's a big problem for us if he flop, because we're not going to go just sign another £65 million player.
No. Okay, let's go to happier memories. This segment is sponsored by 7-Up. Best memory of the season from the past season. But yeah, to be fair, let's make it interesting. Let's not talk about Man U beating them 7-0. But at least they know what the 7-Up preference means. I know, team has given up. Let's just find something else. Apart from the 7-0 victory over Man U, what was your best memory from that season, Tim?
Oh man, you took the best one away. Yeah, my brother is a United
that's obviously all of us are going to say.
Yeah, that's gonna last forever. I mean, he's a United fan, and I constantly keep bringing it up, and he sidesteps it. Credit to him, but I don't know. It's hard to find a good one, man. I mean, I know for personally, as American Scouser, the fundraiser we did, that's probably, and I kept talking about it during I'm like, this is a shit season. Let's get something positive out of this. And the fundraiser we did, and with all the Liverpool fans here, I mean, across the pond, like Yola, I mean, there were so many people contributing, sharing, helping, and stuff. That's probably like one thing. When I look back to the season, we talked about this on our podcast, like 10 years from now, when you look back, you're going to remember the 7-0, right? As you're sipping your 7-Up. That's what you're going to remember from the season. And I will probably remember that. That was the season we did that fundraiser. It was for the earthquake survivors in Turkey. Obviously, it meant a lot more to me being Turkish and stuff like that. So that was kind of like something cool that we ended up doing. I think we ended up in like close to like $5,000, which is not a lot, but it takes care of a lot of kids. It was with SaveTheChildren.org and stuff. So, but in terms of moments, the only one I can think of that, when I look back at the whole season, that one kind of sticks out is the Tottenham game. And Richarlison's pouting afterwards. I mean, that's one thing that I will probably take away. First of all, I think it also talks about what Ryan was talking about earlier, right? Gave you flashbacks of those 90s games where just crazy games that you were like, man, what a game that was. And then the next week it's like a dud again. But yeah, it's kind of like kind of a game. I will probably take that as a memory of blowing a lead that probably should have been 7-8-0. Yeah. And then in the most Liverpool way, score again, but couldn't happen to a nicer guy than Richarlison.
Fantastic. That's a good choice, Tim. Ryan, favorite best memory of the season?
Well, again, since we can't go for the obvious one, I don't know. It wasn't too many. When I gave me the list of what we'd be going over, and I saw the question, and that wasn't part of it. Like, I really, really had to scratch my head to even think of one. Like, it was tough. I mean, I'll give 3, but in no particular order, just as a collective, because none of them really meant anything. Ultimately, more sentimental. So, the 9-0 against Bournemouth. So, highest goal, most goals we scored in a biggest win, ever in the Prem for us. Joint record. Salah getting the quickest hat trick in the Champions League against Rangers. 7-1, and then again Bobby scoring in his final game at Anfield. That one made me happy. Like, I didn't even care what the score was going to be. I was just happy. I was just happy for him because I absolutely from day one to that I love Bobby. Like Bobby's. Like, have you seen the documentary yet?
Oh yeah, it was heartbreaking.
Oh my god,
watching it like this. It was heartbreaking.
Yeah, like I was happy for the guy, and he's good in the last game of the season as well. But I think those three. It's not. I couldn't pick one particular moment because I told you I didn't even watch the 7-0. I was in Barcelona for my birthday. I didn't even watch the 7-0. I was watching some stupid film in the hotel, and my girlfriend said, "Let's go to a bar and watch it." I said, "Nope, I'm not spoiling my birthday. That's how bad the season."
Oh man!
I watched this game, and I checked my phone like 2 minutes after the game ended. I could see all these messages, and I went on the BBC website. I said 7-0. She was so angry with me. She was fuming. She was like, "Look, I've made you miss the game." I was like, "No, I didn't want to watch it, and now I'm happy." So I didn't watch it, but I'm still happy.
Oh man, it was amazing. It was, but similar to yourself, Ryan. Me and my wife, we were out of the country. We were actually in England, but we were visiting. We went for an event, so I actually missed watching the 7-0 too. But I saw a bit of it on my phone while we were in transit. We were just driving. We're driving somewhere, and I could see I think I saw maybe a couple of the goals. But the other, I was getting texts a lot. 3-0, 4-0, 5-0.
Oh my God.
What's happening here?
You thought it was a joke.
Oh, it was crazy. Yeah, it was. But you guys basically, you have like Tim. I was going to say that Jota goal in the Spurs game. That was probably one of the highlights of my season.
Yeah.
I was like, because I still remember how loudly I shouted when the goal went in, because I just was so angry when Richarlison scored. I was so angry of all people to concede an equalizer to this twat Richarlison. And then 30 seconds later we're scoring the fourth goal. I was like, wow, the winning goal. And
I don't think it would mean as much if Kane got there third, to be fair. Like, I don't think I would remember it as much.
Richarlison had to take that top off. Had to whatever.
Flexing the muscles and all that.
There's a little bear dance that he does or whatever.
Oh no, it was so funny. It was so funny.
Yeah, that's a really good one actually.
Like Tim said, couldn't have happened to a nicer person.
Someone ruined that Jota goal. In the WhatsApp group. I think because I was watching it through my Xbox, which maybe is about 10 seconds slower than live TV, and someone wrote Jota, and I thought
that probably was me.
It's probably you. I was like, no, he hasn't. Surely he hasn't. But it's again, I don't mind those kind of surprises. If it's a bad surprise, that's when it's great.
All right, let's start rounding up. So we just go to the final topic, and so season 23-24, the next few weeks we start all over again. And so for you, Ryan, what will constitute a successful season next season?
I'm looking for a quick bounce back. I'm not going to lie. I'm expecting to see us bounce back quickly. I'm not looking for, slow, gentle rebuild. No, I'm hoping, touch wood, I'm hoping, these new signings sort of hit the ground running. I'm hoping, we get a slightly earlier pre-seasoning just to sort of start building that chemistry. I can see a few teams have been posting that they start. It's a bit too early now. I mean, that's a bit ridiculous. I think the Leeds or someone posted pre-season videos or whatever. But I'm hoping maybe if we don't win the Prem, I'd like to see us win the Prem. With us being out of the Champions League. We probably won't do that, but I am expecting silverware. So even if it's just the Europa League and maybe the Carabao Cup or something, I am expecting to see some trophies this season. Ideally, it would be the Premier League and the Europa League. I don't really care about the domestic competitions by themselves because we've only just done that. But success would mean some kind of silverware, not just getting to the final, coming second. No, I need we need receipts. I need some receipts.
All right. Sorry, before you take this question on, big apologies to people who have posted comments, and sorry we got carried away and forgot to talk about people watching who posted comments in. Especially big apology to Davey Fisher. I hope you're still with us, Davey. Apologies, because he did ask that do we interact with comments to get more people watching. Sorry, we got carried away. We forgot to read the comments, David.
Sorry.
But yeah, his question was, I will go back to Ayo's question after, but David's question was, he says, do you think Conor Bradley could break into the first team this season and play cup games? He says he stands out when he plays for Northern Ireland. So, Tim, Conor Brady, what do you think?
I think so, because we don't know how Ramsey's going to come back, when he's going to be back. I think he's going to get his opportunity. And having watched the kid play, I think he has a shot in making, like, kind of like a Basetic, you know, like he got the opportunity and made the most of it. I think Bradley can too. I think he has that potential, and he could be. I mean, like I say, I'm putting him as right back, Trent, and you need somebody behind him. I know Gomez can go there if need be with his experience, but I can see, you know, Bradley getting like a lot of games in the League Cup, FA Cup, and stuff like that, and starting as right back. I mean, the biggest question is going to be, and this is why this is an interesting offseason more than the last 3-4 years, where we don't know how we're going to come out of it in terms of what's going to change. We know something's going to change because Klopp was very adamant about starting it early, not coming to the US, traveling around. I think they're just going to one trip, doing the 2 games, coming back. That signals to me that he wants to implement new stuff, because he does not do it mid-season. We know that. Until everybody has memorized the book, we don't bring the book out. So, I mean, that's why, you know, Fab didn't start 4 months. Robertson didn't start 4 months and stuff. So I think with so many new people, we knew we were going to bring new people in, because last offseason, you saw all the names coming in, like Carvalho and stuff like that. And you were like, Nunez coming in, you're like, oh, we're going to do 4-2-3-1 or something. Nope, we didn't. We started out the same 4-3-3.
4-3-3.
And those guys did not fit. To be fair, when we saw it, we figured, oh, it's going to be this probably because those guys fit this formation. But we tried to kind of pound them into the existing formation. I'll be very interested to see. I mean, we talked about Trent, but what he's going to do with Nunez. How does Nunez fit this? Can we get Gakpo to be Bobby, a faster, bigger version of him? If he can do it, I don't think he can do the creativity, but I think he can do the work that Bobby brings, and he's faster and bigger and stronger. So a lot of interesting things. Who's going to play where? What we're going to do? Are we going to play 3 in the back and stuff? A lot to watch in this offseason. But, you know, to answer the expectation question, I think I agree with Ryan. There should be at least 1 trophy in there and a title run. I mean, we should be relevant again in the chase. But I think whether it's Europa, FA Cup, there should be some trophy in there. Probably Europa seems to be probably the one I would like the most out of the 3. Let's put it that way.
And it's realistic. It's realistic as well. I don't think based on the level of competition, apart from maybe Sevilla.
Sevilla.
It's a realistic expectation, I think, as well.
Okay, for Conor Bradley. I think he was voted player of the season at Bolton or something, maybe young player of the season. He had a very good season away on loan. So I would like to see him back. Let's see what we can get out of him.
There's a few I'd like to see, you know, of the youngsters that I'd like to see start getting, you know, a couple of games, just, you know, a good mix. You know, I think we're slowly, hopefully continues building, you know, a bit of a squad. Start introducing a few of these names. You know, the one name I'm still gutted I haven't got to see, because again, he was in, you know, one of the goals of the season when we did the countdown on that Musialowski. Did he get injured?
The Polish Messi.
When you watch the guy, he's an absolute baller, but I don't know why he just doesn't really factor in when we see, you know, some of the youngsters get brought.
I think it's because maybe his physicality. I think it's still probably, you know, I think so. Another player we've forgotten about, Kate Gordon. Ben
Doak.
Ben Doak
as well. Ben Doak, he's a confident kid, very confident. Again, the only thing that might be his undoing is maybe physicality. But you know, he's got the confidence of, you know, iron and grit Scotsman. You know, he doesn't care. He wants to get stuck in, you know, and give it a good go. I like players like that personally, because I feel like, you know, the sky's the limit when you've got that kind of, you know.
That's why I wish we had like deeper runs in like the League Cup and stuff. So these
so they can get more of a game.
I'm hoping now that you have like a deeper team in the midfield and stuff, instead of just playing like nothing but kids, it would be nice to have some kind of a balance. It's not fair to just throw the kids against the Premier League team either. But, you know, if that kid is playing next to McAllister and stuff like that in midfield, I think you see more of him. Or he's playing next to Nunez as a right wing. I think you get more out of Van Dijk as opposed to, you know, playing against another kid in the middle and stuff like that. So that will definitely be interesting to see. And I would hope that we go deeper with a deeper bench. Hopefully no injuries this year. That's the
of course. Davey is back. He's asking us, do we think Andrew Robertson's a rotation risk? Because he wants to put him in the FPL team. This is a very relevant question because I am a big FPL fan. Like Tim will know, I love playing fantasy football. And actually, this question makes sense because people are already saying that, people are already saying that we might need to get a left-sided center back to play if we're going to play this 3-box-3.
Yeah.
That might need a new left-sided center back because maybe Andy Robertson can do it. And in answer to Davy's question, I think Robertson might be a rotation risk. We still have our Greek scouser, though the speculation was maybe we might be selling him because he was very emotional during the last game of the season. Like people were thinking maybe Tsimikas is going off, but we still have him and we still have Robertson. And if we get this left-sided center back, then Robertson might be a rotation risk. What do you guys think? Tim, what do you think?
I think by the way, one thing we saw this year is, you know, when we had, you know, Robertson obviously in his prime, if you will, and you had like the Greek scouts again, we're like, man, we're setting left back forever. When Van Dijk couldn't clean up as much as he could behind Robertson or Costas, we were like, maybe these guys are not as good as defensively as we initially thought. Was the thing, because I think, you know, Van Dijk is constantly barking at like Robo, like one way or the other. And I think we saw a lot of that. Really, I would say to Davey, I wouldn't do anything with Liverpool until he watches a couple of preseason games. Because if we do play, like you say, 3 in the back, do we put Robo on the left? Like he does with Scotland, for example, at times, or, you know, but definitely would be like a rotation risk then, or do we stick with what we think is going to happen, the old school 4-3-3 with little tweaks here and there, and then obviously then he is, you know, he's going to be regular on that left back.
What do you think, Ryan? Robertson?
Honestly, for the league, I don't really see him being much of a rotation risk. I think when it comes to the league, Klopp, you could pretty much bank on Klopp going for tried and trusted. And I would be very surprised if you saw drastic changes early on in the season, especially in the league. Now, maybe cup games, I feel as though us being in the Europa League, I can't see him taking it too serious. I think you will see quite some major wholesale changes for cup games. You'll have the odd player here and there, you know, a good spine to the team of, you know, our core players. But I think when it comes to the league, you will more or less be seeing the odd new introduction. But that back line, I'm very confident you'll be seeing Alisson, Trent, Konate, Verge, and Robbo for you know, a large majority of the season, barring any, you know, significant injuries. Even if we do that whole invert, I still think if we go to a back 3, Robbo will be there at the back alongside Verge and Konate. Because you forget Robbo's defensive awareness is spot on. It's the only thing that is only downfall is his size in a way, but the heart grit, awareness, speed, everything, he's got it. It's just those balls. See those balls that Trent sometimes get caught out with, you know, those back post ones. Robbo's actually really, really good at defending those. It's just sometimes he just can't quite reach. But he's a good man to have, you know, sort of last ditch. He's not bad at all, is he? So no, I think you're fairly safe if you've got Robbo in the team. But I'm a bit like Tim. I don't really like throwing Liverpool players in my team too much. I stay away from Liverpool because I will triple captain the striker that's playing against us. If we get beat, at least my striker scored, and I got loads of.
See, I can't do that because I don't know who the hell.
I'm not losing on 2 fronts now. I'm losing here or I'm losing here. I'm not losing twice. Triple captain Haaland against us. Hopefully he doesn't score, but if he does, well, consolation.
Alan is going to be very expensive in FPL. He's probably going to be like 15 million.
Might cost 20 points, something insane.
Yeah. But yeah, for me, I think Robertson. Usually, when I go for a defender in FPL, I go with Trent because I just think
Someone
Trent
that
has
gets assists.
he gets the assist, he scores, he gets more
Scores
goals
with
than
assists,
Robertson.
yeah.
Because if anybody's going to score, Trent, I'll put Trent before Robertson because Trent will score a free kick or maybe.
Remember that Trent Cancelo season where they were just those two?
Yeah.
How many points they would get you?
Yeah. So, but I think it might be he's 28, 29 next season. I think Robertson, and
20,
I think
29, yeah.
29. I think Klopp might start rotating him a bit more, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
And thank you, Davey. Davey Fisher has said he's going to subscribe. Thank you very much for popping in today, dropping some comments. There was a comment earlier that we missed also about. Well, we discussed this, so we probably won't spend too many minutes on this. He is this our Man U fan. He's one of the producers of Footy Fantasy. But we had a discussion like maybe last week where I was trying to say, well, FSG are like Glazers with better PR, which is what I've said today. So
100%. FSG are better. More, Glazers spend more than FSG, but I'd still prefer FSG just because they got Klopp. I don't care about anything else. They got us Klopp, so.
But the Glazers also have brought, like I told him the other day, I said Glazers have also brought in top managers to Man U. They brought in Mourinho for them. They brought Van Gaal. Now they brought in Ten Hag. So they've also, of course, they've brought in Solskjaer and they've brought in a couple of bad managers, but they've also tried to bring in good managers for them. Like Ten Hag came in and he's won the trophy already and got another final, got them top 4. So I think the Glazers have done well. I mean, relatively well. Of course, what's worse for them is they load a lot of debt onto the club.
Yeah,
which FSG don't do. So that's a good point. Like FSG didn't load any debt onto the club. It's just that basically they loaned money to Liverpool and Liverpool paying back for the stadium development. That's the only thing. So yeah, we've already talked about FSG, so we won't rehash all of that. I think we can start rounding up basically. For me, similar to you two guys, next season we have to win a trophy, and I really expect us to go for the title. I mean, a proper challenge, because in the Europa we won't have to use our first team all the time. The groups are usually, in the group stage especially, we can get away with using maybe the second string. So basically we can arrest the likes of Salah, you can arrest Van Dijk, for some of those group games. So at least we should be able to put together a good run. I don't like the fixtures to start off with. I don't like starting off with Chelsea away.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I think we could have gotten a better fixture, to be honest. So the first 3 fixtures are a bit, but if we do get like 3 wins to start the season, I think we might put together a good run. But yeah, we need a trophy, and we really need to compete for the title next season, especially now that we are spending the midfield rebuild looks to be going well. Getting one more midfielder, getting one more defender, I think we should be good. And yeah, it will be Liverpool back. Liverpool, top of the league. Liverpool, top of the league. Hopefully we're singing all of that next season. And hopefully not just top of the league. We want to stay there. We don't want to be there for 93% of the season and fall off like Arsenal. We want to be top of the league and stay there and win it. That's what we want. Not like Arsenal. So yeah, thank you guys for joining today. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you to Ayo and Davey for the comments, and everybody else who watched on different devices. So Liverpool back. We'll be back. We'll be in the Europa for Thursday night, but we won't be there for long. We'll be back.
That means no Saturday morning games. So
yeah, for you guys. All going to be Sunday games, Sunday games. Yeah, but thank you, Ryan. Thank you, team.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you, Bola, for coming on earlier. And we never walk alone.
Absolutely.
See you guys.
Take care, guys. All the best.
Thank you. Bye.